Hi, yeah, Antonia. It's Ashley. Can you please tell Frank I can't make it in today? Yeah, I'm really sick, you know? With what? With chicken pox. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye. If you have ever worked with a coworker or a boss who's made you feel uncomfortable, sadly, you are not alone. This happens all too often, and it can be something as subtle as an overly friendly compliment, the microaggressive, and one of my personal favorites, you should smile more. Really? I should smile more? Well, I think you should go eat a bag of Hey, eyes up here. As a matter of fact, let me cover up before somebody thinks I'm asking for something. So I started working for Creepy Frank when I was a 19-year-old, shiny, young, little naive pebble. Just to give you just a quick description of Frank, he was a 51, 52-year-old white Palm Beacher male, so like, you know, wealthy, with a wife and 2 kids. Frank actually recruited me to work for him when he met me at a restaurant that I worked at the time. Stupid me, wearing a name tag. I didn't even put 2 and 2 together, but he approached me and was like, hey, are you Ashley? And I was like,
yeah, I'm Ashley.
Basically, he told me that my manager that I worked for at the restaurant, he expressed to her that he needed a new receptionist and that I would be the perfect person. Me not even thinking about it, of course I jumped at the opportunity to have an interview, and I met with him the next day. You know, right away when I walked into the office, it felt weird the moment that she actually brought me into the room to talk to him. You just kind of know when someone is looking at you or kind of scanning you in a way that is less than wholesome, I guess, if that makes sense. As soon as he hires me on, he just gives me this big old hug, and it's like such a hug it's almost like it's a second too long. But I didn't think anything of that. He asked me how much money I wanted to make, and I told him I wanted $15 an hour, and he agreed. So I'm 19. That's more money than I've ever made before at this point. He wants a hug, he can have a hug. It didn't really take long for Frank to kind of subtly make advances at me. He would slowly start to give me compliments that were getting friendlier and friendlier. I don't know, it's something about maybe his status that even though it was inappropriate, it didn't exactly come off as creepy, because I'm like, oh, well, he's just like being really nice and I'm 19. But he would give me compliments and be like, you know, he'd call me into his office. Hey, come here.
Okay. Hey, Frank, what's up?
Really good today.
What?
Really good today.
What are you saying? Why are you whispering to me? Can you just speak in your regular vocal volume?
That was the thing. He would always give me these compliments, but he would kind of call me into the office, ask me to close the door a little bit. When he would say them, he would just kind of have this lower whisper, almost so that no one else in the office would be able to hear him. There was only like maybe 2 or 3 other people in the office at the time. He definitely knew that what he was doing was not appropriate for him to be whispering to me to give me a compliment. As a little bit more time went on, when he would give me a compliment and tell me that I would look good, he would actually physically make the motion and be like, yeah, you know, you look really good today. Really good. Honestly, I was so dumb. I was just kind of like,
oh, thanks. You know, I just started doing this new thing where my tits pop all the way out of my shirt because I'm 19 and it's socially acceptable for me to do that right now.
Hugs got seconds longer, and then those hugs turned into cheek kisses. He would always kiss me on the cheek, but very, very close to my mouth. And there were a couple times that he actually did kiss me on the mouth, and he was like, whoops, like it was an accident. And I always knew that he was going to try to kiss me on the mouth in some way. And then I'd kind of do this bobbing and weaving kind of thing, trying to like avoid it happening, and he would still like clip the side of it somehow. I don't know. Ooh. Sorry, guys. things downright got uncomfortable for me, and I should have been uncomfortable a little earlier on. Frank started to tell me about women he had been involved with or women that he dated. Because as I told you earlier, he was a white male in his early 50s. I'm like, you know, a little 19-year-old Caribbean island ting. He started to tell me about these girls and describe them, and they were always women who were dark skinned or African American. All of them had very, you know, dark, deep colored skin. Eventually he would just come out and say it, that he liked black girls. Like, you know, like before my wife, like I dated black girls, and it was almost like he would say it to me to kind of warm me up to the idea of seeing him. He started to tell me about the old assistant that worked for him months before and how he dated her, but it was more like he was kind of a sugar daddy to her, and he would buy her things, and he would call me in just to show me pictures of these women. And eventually the pictures that he was showing me were naked photos of these girls. It was weird, and I don't know, shameful that he even felt so comfortable with me to do that. But I would just kind of like chuckle it off, like, yeah. He'd be like, isn't she so hot? Like, look at, let me show you my ex-girlfriend. And every time I'd be like, oh God, like he's gonna show me more naked pictures of these girls. It also just made me sad because you're married. First of all, to be honest, it probably wasn't even that much later that he was no longer with these women, but he's over here showing me, a complete stranger, pictures of these naked girls. I'm talking like fully nude naked. There was one girl that he showed me a picture of, and she was East Indian, or forgive me for not knowing, but she had nothing but a veil on. She had her little, I don't know what it's called, and I don't want to be disrespectful by saying anything other than what it is, literally sprawled out on this bed, legs wide open, everything out. And I was just not only appalled and sad, but it was almost kind of scary. I felt like if I didn't go along with this and agree that these girls were hot and just let him show these pictures to me, one, I would lose my job. Two, I would upset him, and he just had this power about it. Like, it didn't feel like he was just like some weird creepy person. It just felt like he was, I don't know, a powerful person who owned this company, and it was a company that raised capital, so he knew a lot of very wealthy people in Palm Beach as well. Never felt like, one, I could complain to anyone because this is a very small office and he owns the company, so it's not like I could go to HR and complain or say anything. Two, I was kind of desensitized to it because I worked in an environment in a restaurant where people were always inappropriate, literally doing things like, you know, slapping your ass when you walk by or catcalling, things like that. At the time, I just thought, okay, well, he's not doing anything to me physically, so it's fine. I'm making $15 an hour. I'm rich. I've never made this amount of money before. Besides having to put up with him showing me a couple of naked pictures and kissing me a little too close to my mouth instead of on my cheek, I can deal with sitting at a computer all day and making $15 an hour. His advances got a little bit more aggressive, not in a way that was sexual though. It was in a way that he was almost predatory. At the time I was looking for a new place, he saw me looking at apartments on Craigslist. The girls just want to be out, guys. At this computer looking at these shitty ass apartments because I obviously can't afford anything very nice. Are you looking for apartments?
Why are you whispering?
You're looking for a new place?
Yeah, I really want to move out of my parents' house. Everything's so expensive.
Well, he sees me looking at these shitty ass apartments. He goes, well, you know, I have a really nice 2-bedroom apartment at 2 City Plaza downtown. 2 City Plaza, this building, this was like my dream building that I wanted to live in. He would lie about things here and there, so I didn't really believe him. And he's like, yeah, if you want, we can go during lunch and I can show you the place. And if you like it, you can move in there and just pay me the HOA fees and that'll be it. On our lunch break, he did in fact take me to this apartment. And, you know, we couldn't drive separately though. Like, I wanted to just go see the apartment and then go off and get lunch with one of my friends or something and then go back to the office, but we had to go, both of us together, in his new Jaguar that he had. And when you pull up to this place, it's like a valet, you know, where there's people, they open the door for you and let you out. And here it is, me with this 50-something-year-old dude who looks like a hot shot, and they're letting me out, and I'm like this 19-year-old thing. Of course my boobs are spilling out of my dress or whatever I was wearing, I'm sure, so it couldn't have been a very good look. kind of putting his arm around me in almost a buddy way, because I'm trying to keep my distance from him, but he's sort of making it look like it's something more than it actually is. We see the apartment. Amazing. It's beautiful, it's wonderful, it's immaculate, it's everything I could ever dream of.
So then what are the HOA fees if I want to move in?
Oh, it's only like $600, which is less than what you'd be paying if you moved into, you know, that crappy old spot you were looking at. Arguably a dream come true. I'm looking around in the place, I'm like, wow, I really like it. Can I really move in here? And he comes over to me and just kind of like puts his arms on my shoulders and like rubs them down my arms and like holds my hands, and he's like, you like it? And I'm like, yeah, I like it. Okay, you want to move in? And I was just like, yes, I would love to move in. What do I have to do? And he's just like, okay, good. I'm glad you're happy. I guess I'll get the keys together. You can fill out an application to do the background check and everything, and then if everything checks out, you can move in. And I'm just so excited because I was stressed. Things were not good at home with my parents at all at the time either, so I was literally like an argument away from being kicked out, literally. So it was kind of like this silver lining in all of this gray fog and all these clouds that I had been going through at the time. It was like he was answering my prayers. Of course, then when things were inappropriate in the office and he would tell jokes or be a little touchy or still show me naked pictures, at this point it's like, okay, well, he's gonna let me move into this apartment for, you know, essentially free, so I kind of have to go along with it. That one argument away came, I got kicked out of my house. And mind you, this is probably 2 or 3 weeks after I had filled out a background check to move into this apartment. I'm getting desperate at this point because not only am I just kind of couch hopping from place to place at different friends' houses, at this point it's about to look like I'm either going to start dancing or living in my car because I'm not making enough money to find a place on my own. Of course, all of my hopes and dreams are wrapped up into this place that he promised me I'd be able to live in. I keep following up with him about what's going on with the background check, and I can tell that he can sense my desperation as everything's happening. You know, I come to work and I'm emotional and I'm crying, well, what's up, what's going on, like, don't worry, we'll get you in that place soon. And he's just kind of catering to this victim that I am and this vulnerability that I have at the time. He actually gave me a set of keys for this apartment, took me there. We unlocked the door, I walked around again, looked at the place. This was when I dropped off my background check and my application. I had a set of keys. So in all this time, when I'm going through all this chaos, I would just kind of go on my lunch break and go to this apartment and unlock the door to my apartment and walk around and just wait and long for the day that I would be able to escape my reality and move into this place. He literally preyed on my vulnerability and just hoped that something would happen at some point because I was so desperate. Like, oh, you like it? You like it? You can have it. Like whispering, of course. Long story short, I never moved into that apartment. He just kept making excuses about the background check. Like something came up, and I was like, something came up? Like, how is that possible? I don't understand. He's like, don't worry, I'll fix it. And for weeks at a time, he just kept drawing it out. And eventually I ended up finding a place and moving on my own. And honestly, I feel like if I hadn't had a boyfriend at the time, things may have gone very different. Nothing ever physically happened with Frank and I. Eventually, the reason that I left was not because of how creepy everything was, which should have really been it, but it was because I went and cashed a paycheck and it bounced. Now, this was the beginning of the end, and also the beginning of another story for another video about how he went down for all this crazy fraudulent stuff. And I just called him on the phone or something and told him that like I wasn't coming back, and he was like, okay, that's fine. And come to think about it, I was so scared to tell him that I wasn't gonna be working there anymore, but I just honestly had to cut my losses. I was like, you kind of dealt with enough, and at this point you're never gonna see that money anyway. I wish I could say that I didn't see him again, but I did run into him, I want to say a total of twice. The first time was when I picked up a paycheck at my other job, the restaurant that I worked at. I guess he was there eating lunch or something. He said hi and was just like nice, like nothing happened, like nothing weird ever went down at all, and like gave me, you know, tried to give me a hug. And the bartender saw that I hugged him. She goes, oh, how do you know Frank? And I was like, oh, I used to work for him. that girl, she's like, yeah, Frank was here today. He told me how you quit, and he said that you like cried and you were all upset and like all this stuff. Like he basically told her this sob story that like I was just going through a lot of emotional stuff, and I came into his office crying and just said I just like didn't want to do a bad job, so I couldn't work there anymore. It was just like this crazy thing. And then he also told her that he was going to give her his Rolex, and I flat out told her, I was like, to be honest, I really don't know why he is eating here, because he's broke. His accounts are frozen and he's broke. That's all I said. I didn't say or go into detail about what else was going on, but I was like, but do not trust a word that this man says, because he is nothing but a liar. He actually did know the family that owned that restaurant, so he didn't lie about that. I didn't want to go bad-mouthing the guy because, I don't know, I just thought that it would blow back on me somehow, so I never really told anybody any of this. Later on, I would also find out that he, you know, I had a friend who lived in that building that I was supposed to move in, by the way. That friend told me that Frank was telling the valets and the reception guy and the bellman that I was sleeping with him, and that's why I was going to be moving into that apartment. In hindsight, my gut should have just told me to get out of there and be done with it, but you know, it wasn't just the paycheck. It was making that amount of money to be able to move out of my parents' house because I couldn't be there anymore because the situation was so bad, and having the possibility of my independence being thrown right in front of me. That's what it was that had me holding on to that. The second time I ran into him, it was like a few years after that, and it was in the public supermarket. I was walking around grocery shopping with my boyfriend at the time. He had the audacity, when I was looking for something, because I didn't even notice this person at all, he had the audacity to actually come up to me and be like, Ashley, is that you? And I looked at him, and it was like this chill just rushed up my body when I saw him, and I was just like, Frank? And he's like, hey, how have you been? Like, how are you doing? And I was just kind of like, I'm fine. You know, I wasn't even nice about it. Like, I was nice enough where I wasn't, you know, an asshole by any means, but I definitely had to tell him, I was like, I'm fine. And I didn't ask him how he was doing. I just was in a hurry to get away from him because at that point I had known, because I was old enough at that point to look back and realize that all the things that he did or showed me or told me or the way he baited me, all of that was wrong, and this man just blatantly tried to take advantage of me. So I was not in friendly mood to see him, and that was the last time I would ever see him. Okay, well, I gotta wrap this up because the story has been told, the trauma has been relived, and I'm ready to move on or continue moving on. I'm curious to know if anybody out there has gone through anything similar, specifically with like things inappropriate happening to them at work and actually reporting it. In my instance, I didn't report it. I was young and dumb, and frankly, I didn't think that there was anything I could possibly do. But just let me know how it turned out for you. Like, did something actually end up happening to the perpetrator, or did things just kind of get smoothed over and them go by with a slap on the wrist? Curious to know. But thank you guys so much for watching. Please look out for that part 2 horrible boss video, because it gets completely crazy. Like, once you guys hear that story, it'll give you this huge scope of the bounds this man was willing to go. But I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you.